After the girl filed for divorce, CEO begged to win her back with a $100 million necklace. The chandelier above the ballroom glittered like a constellation of silent witnesses. Every pair of eyes beneath it had turned, not toward the stage, but to the giant LED screen that had just flickered alive. A video was playing.
Raw.
Grainy, but unmistakably real. Damian Wei, chairman of Wei Global Holdings, billionaire, icon, and husband, was captured on screen in an intimate moment. A woman's laugh, a hand trailing down his collar, her face partially hidden, but hers, not Isla. The crowd's gasp was a tidal wave, crashing against the silence of the ballroom. Isla stood frozen in the center of it all, her champagne flute trembling in her hand. The golden liquid within shimmered like guilt itself. She didn't blink,
Didn't speak.
didn't run. Her dress, silken ivory, understated elegance, suddenly felt like a cruel joke. A wedding color worn by a woman already broken. At the far end of the room, Damian stood near the press circle, jaw clenched, eyes wide. He hadn't expected this. That much was clear. For once, the most calculated man in the city looked stunned. Their eyes met. His lips parted. No words came. She already knew. What the public was gasping at now, she had carried for months like an iron weight beneath her ribs. The betrayal hadn't killed her. But this moment, this public unveiling, this humiliation, was what broke the last, fragile piece of her. She turned without a word. "Mrs. Wei, Isla, please wait," reporters shouted. Cameras clicked like gunfire. But she didn't stop. Her heels cut into the marble like declarations. She walked straight to the stage. Every light followed her now. It wasn't in the plan. She had come only to sign the final divorce papers and disappear, graceful, silent. But they had started this war. She wouldn't leave as a victim. Gripping the mic stand with a hand that had once caressed that same man's face, she exhaled. A calm settled over her like a second skin. Since everyone's watching, her voice, though soft, sliced through the chaos. "Let me make something clear." Damian took a step forward but froze. Something in her voice had changed. "I filed for divorce 3 weeks ago." The room fell still. "But I chose to keep it private, for dignity's sake. For the man I once loved." Cameras flashed faster now. "But I see now dignity means nothing to some people." Damian's fists clenched at his sides. His jaw twitched. But still, no denial. No explanation. "The man you just saw on that screen," she nodded toward the footage still frozen behind her, "once promised me the world. Instead, he gave me silence when I needed truth." The room was breathless. "I don't need your sympathy. Or your judgment. I just want what every woman deserves, respect." Isla looked out at the glittering crowd, and then, just once, at Damian. "I'm walking away. Not because I'm weak, but because I'm finally strong enough to." And with that, she dropped the mic, not dramatically, but deliberately, and walked off stage. Damian caught up with her outside, under the frostbitten night sky. Limousines idled along the curb. The city's buzz was muffled under the weight of what had just transpired. "Isla," he said, finally speaking. She turned slowly. Her eyes shimmered, but not with tears. "I should have stopped you before," he muttered, voice low, rough. "Then why didn't you?" she asked simply. His throat worked, words stuck behind walls he built himself. "It wasn't what it looked like." She almost laughed. "That's what they always say." "Isla," she meant nothing. "You meant everything." The air went still between them. "That's the difference." He looked away. For a moment, just a sliver of time, the powerful CEO looked like a boy who had just realized he'd burned down his own home. Her driver opened the car door for her. "You can keep your apology, Damian. It's not worth $100 million. She slid into the back seat, diamonds on her ears catching the streetlight like stars. He stood there, silent and helpless, as the car pulled away into the city's glittering night. And he didn't know it yet, but in 2 weeks' time, he would walk into an auction house, and placed the highest bid ever recorded for a necklace that once belonged to a queen. All for the woman who used to wear his name. Cliffhanger ending line. And Isla? She wouldn't even open the box. 3 weeks later, Isla Wei, no longer Mrs., stood in the elevator of Wei Global's marble tower, her reflection framed by mirrored steel and cold fluorescent light. The soft ping at each floor echoed like a countdown. She hadn't stepped into this building since the scandal broke. Now she wasn't a guest. She wasn't a wife. She was the storm. Floor 47. Executive boardroom. As the doors parted, Isla walked through without hesitation, heels clicking across polished floors like firecrackers. Heads turned. Eyes widened. Whispers sparked like dry tinder. She wore all black, a fitted, satin blazer over matching trousers, and no makeup except a bold crimson lip. A war paint of elegance. She didn't need their approval. She needed the truth. Earlier that morning, her lawyer handed her something unexpected: confidential reports, leaked anonymously. Stock movements, falsified PR releases, and one name circled in red: Veronica Miles. Damien's executive assistant. The same woman from the video. Except it wasn't just infidelity. It was corporate sabotage. Isla had walked away from the marriage. But this wasn't just personal anymore. It was betrayal on every level. And she wasn't going to let it slide. Inside the boardroom, the air was suffocating with power and polished egos. Damien sat at the head of the table, unreadable as always. The second he saw her, the mask cracked for half a second. Isla, he said low, almost uncertain. I requested 5 minutes of the board's time, she said clearly, placing a slim file folder on the polished mahogany. You don't work here, growled Mr. Zhao, the CFO. No, she agreed. But maybe I should have. Then someone would have noticed what your assistant was doing behind closed doors. She tossed the documents onto the table.
Charts.
Signatures. Emails.
Gasps.
Rapid page flipping.
Panic.
Veronica Miles has been leaking internal financials to a rival firm in Tokyo. Strategic sabotage buried under fake expenses and closed-door meetings labeled as late-night revisions with your CEO. All eyes shot to Damien. His face remained composed, but his hand tightened on the armrest. She wasn't just cheating with him, Isla added, her voice like velvet over steel. She was using him. No. Damien stood, voice sharp. This isn't true. Veronica would never. Don't defend her. Isla snapped, eyes blazing. Not to me. Not after everything. Silence crashed into the room. Damien's expression cracked, fully this time. Realization hit him in a wave of cold horror. He believed Veronica's lies. Watched Isla walk away, thinking she was just hurt. Never once did he ask why she really left. She hadn't just been heartbroken. She'd been protecting him. You think I came here for revenge? Isla said softly, looking around the room. I came here because this company still carries my name. Because I'm not ashamed of walking away from my marriage, but I am ashamed I ever trusted people who would destroy something we built together. She turned to Damien one last time. Fix this. Not for me. For the legacy you're still trying to hold on to. And just like that, she left. That night, Damien stood alone in his penthouse, Veronica's keycard snapped in half beside him. She had confessed after Isla left. Sobbing. Begging. And he had fired her on the spot. But nothing felt victorious. The $100 million necklace sat in a velvet box on his desk, platinum, embedded with star sapphires and blood diamonds. He'd commissioned it the moment Isla filed for divorce, hoping to buy redemption. Now, it looked like penance. He clutched the necklace in one hand, knuckles white, staring into the city's cold skyline. She came to save him, even after he broke her heart. And he didn't deserve a single carat of that woman's grace. Cliffhanger ending line. The next morning, a delivery man knocked on Isla's door, with the velvet box in his hands and a handwritten note that said only, "This is not a bribe. It's an apology I can't afford." Isla stared at the velvet box on her kitchen counter like it was a live grenade. The sapphires glittered under morning light, blood-red diamonds burning like tiny apologies. She didn't touch it. But the note? She read it 10 times.
This is not a bribe.
It's an apology I can't afford.
Damien.
She could almost hear his voice in those words, controlled, deep, unraveling. Like the man who once held her hand in silence when her father died, and then months later let her face a media scandal alone. Why now? Why this? Did he think a necklace could rewind the past? Setting: a cafe in the financial district. Later that day, Isla waited at a quiet corner table of their once favorite cafe. She hadn't agreed to meet him. She had texted him 3 words: "We need closure." He arrived precisely on time, black suit immaculate, but the dark circles under his eyes betrayed him. Damien Cole was the picture of power, fraying at the edges. He sat across from her slowly, like the seat might shatter beneath him. "I didn't expect you'd want to see me," he said, voice low. "I don't," Isla replied. "But if you keep sending diamonds like apology notes, people are going to start thinking I'm auctioning off my forgiveness." His jaw twitched. "That wasn't my intention." "No," she challenged, folding her arms. "Then what was your intention, Damien? Because you weren't apologizing when I packed my bags. You weren't begging when I left that courthouse alone." He looked down at his hands, flexed his fingers once. "Because I was a coward, and I thought you'd come back." "You thought I'd what?" Her voice rose. "That I'd forgive your silence? Your indifference? That I'd play the trophy wife until you finally remembered I existed?" A beat of silence. Even the barista stopped wiping the counter. "I thought," he said quietly, "that I could fix everything from a distance. That if I got rid of Veronica, if I handled the fallout, you'd see I was trying." Isla's laugh was bitter. "You're always handling things, Damien. Even me. Like I'm another asset in your portfolio. I'm not something you can win back with strategy or price tags." He flinched, barely perceptible, but she saw it. Then his voice cracked slightly. "I never stopped loving you, Isla." The silence that followed was suffocating. Her heart beat wildly, painfully, like it wanted to believe him, but her mind refused to betray her scars. "Then why didn't you fight for me?" she whispered. "I thought letting you go was what you wanted," he said. "I thought giving you space would show you I respected your decision. I didn't realize. I didn't know I'd already lost you the moment I stopped seeing you." Flashback, brief. 2 years ago. A charity gala. Damien stood in a circle of executives, glass in hand, laughing at some tasteless joke. Isla, dressed in gold, walked up to him. He looked through her, smiled politely, introduced her to a stranger as his wife, like she was an accessory. That night, she cried in a hotel bathroom while he closed a deal over whiskey. Back in present. "You broke me," she said now, voice trembling. "But I stitched myself back together without you. I filed those papers because I didn't want to wait around hoping you'd finally see me. I wanted to see me again." Damien reached across the table. She didn't move. "Isla, I see you now. Every version. The woman I fell in love with. The woman I failed. The woman I never stopped needing." She stared at him, then quietly said, "What hurts the most is that I believe you." Emotional beat/twist ending. Just then, her phone buzzed. Isla glanced down and paled. An anonymous message. One image. Damien in a boardroom, shaking hands with Veronica Miles. Time-stamped yesterday. She raised her eyes slowly, voice cold. "You said she was fired." "She was," Damien said quickly. "What?" She turned the screen toward him. "Then explain this." Damien stared. And for the first time, he didn't have the words. Cliffhanger ending line. "I warned you, Damien," Isla said, standing slowly. "You lose me twice. You don't get a third chance." Isla's heels clicked sharply against the marble floor of Cole Enterprises. She hadn't planned on storming into Damien's office. She hadn't planned on anything until she saw that photo. Damien. Veronica. Smiling. Shaking hands. He lied. Again. Her fingers curled around the velvet box in her purse. The necklace. She should have known. Nothing from Damien came without strings. Setting. Damien's office. Top floor, Cole Tower. Ms. Isla. The receptionist half rose in surprise. Mr. Cole isn't. Don't worry. Isla cut in, her voice like ice. He'll want to see me. She pushed through the heavy doors without waiting. Inside, Damien stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, phone pressed to his ear. The skyline behind him glowed gold with the setting sun. He turned the moment he heard the door slam. His eyes widened. Isla. Save it, she snapped, tossing the phone onto the leather couch. I came here for answers. Damien moved toward her slowly, cautious. I don't know what you think you saw, but… You were with her, Isla said, holding up her phone with the damning photo. Veronica. The same woman who leaked that scandal to the press and humiliated me in front of the entire board. You said she was gone. Fired. I did fire her, he replied. But that meeting wasn't what it looked like. Is that your go-to excuse? Isla laughed bitterly. You think I haven't heard that one before? God, Damien, do you really think I'm still that naive? He exhaled slowly, chest rising and falling like a man walking a tightrope. She approached me yesterday. Said she had leverage against the company. Something from before. If I didn't meet with her, she threatened to go public. Isla blinked. Leverage? Damien's jaw locked. Old contracts. Whistleblower emails. A breach I covered when we were expanding in Singapore. She's bluffing, but if she isn't, I couldn't risk it. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, voice cracking. Because I didn't want to drag you back into my mess. You already did, Isla shouted. The moment you let her stay on for months after that article came out. The moment you stood by while she poisoned the board against me. I regret every second of that, Damien snapped. You think I haven't gone over it 1,000 times in my head? Every time you walk away from me, I see exactly where I failed. Isla's breath hitched. There it was again. The sincerity in his eyes that always made her chest ache. The part of him she wanted to believe still loved her. But love meant protection, loyalty,
Trust.
and his silence had ruined them. Flashback. A year ago, Cole Foundation Gala. The spotlight had fallen on her dress. A champagne silk gown. And then, Veronica had accidentally spilled wine down the front. Cameras flashing. Laughter echoing. Damien had said nothing. Hadn't even reached for her. That night, she cried behind the locked door of a guest bathroom, mascara streaking her cheeks. Alone. Back and present. Isla stepped closer now, pain and fury pulsing beneath her skin. You said you see me now, she whispered. But all I see is a man still too afraid to stand beside me when it matters. Damien looked away. You're right. I was a coward. Her voice trembled. Then why keep chasing me with necklaces and apologies? What's left for you to prove? He finally met her eyes. That I'm not that man anymore. And that if there's even a sliver of you that still believes in us, I'll fight like hell to be worthy of it. Isla stared at him. For a moment, she softened. Just enough to remember how it used to feel, falling asleep in his arms before the world poisoned their love. But the scar was too deep, and trust didn't come in a velvet box. She turned away. I need time, Damien. I need distance. Not jewels. She reached into her purse and placed the $100 million necklace on his desk, then walked out without looking back. Ending twist/cliffhanger. Hours later, Damien sat alone in the darkened office. The necklace still untouched. His phone buzzed again. A new message. Blocked number. You think losing Isla was painful? Wait until you lose everything else.
V.
Damien's hands clenched. He hadn't just failed her. Now he was about to lose the company too. Isla never planned to attend the investors' gala. But when Veronica's name appeared on the guest list as strategic advisor, Isla knew this wasn't just a coincidence. It was a setup. And tonight, she wouldn't play the quiet wife anymore. Not after the years of humiliation, betrayal, and silence. Tonight, she would burn every illusion to the ground, with the whole city watching. Setting: Manhattan Skyline Hotel, Investors Gala Night. Crystal chandeliers. Black tie elegance. A sea of curated smiles and whispering shareholders. Damien stood near the stage, dressed in a sleek tailored tux, his expression unreadable. Isla entered like thunder in silk. Her dress, deep crimson. Her hair, swept back like a crown. Her walk, measured, calm, lethal. The crowd parted unconsciously as she passed. Eyes widened, glasses tilted mid-sip. She stopped just short of Damien. He turned and froze. Isla, don't, she said, her voice low and charged. Don't say my name like you still own it. Damien's eyes flicked to the diamond necklace around her neck. Not the one he gave. This one was modest, elegant, simple. Something she chose. For herself. I thought you weren't coming, he murmured. I wasn't, she replied. Until I saw Veronica listed as part of your team. His jaw clenched. That wasn't me. The board overruled. I don't care. She stepped in closer, their proximity causing a ripple of attention. You don't get to keep using the board as a shield. You built this empire, Damien. You are the power here. You just pick and choose when to wield it. The microphone crackled. The announcer's voice rang out. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Damien Cole, CEO of Cole Enterprises. The applause swelled. Damien looked at her one last time. Then he stepped up to the stage. On stage. Damien took the microphone. Good evening. Before I speak about projections, I need to address something more personal. Something I can't hide behind charts and reports anymore. A hush fell over the ballroom. In this room stands the woman I married, Isla. He paused, eyes scanning the crowd until they found her again. She once told me that silence is betrayal. That protecting someone means choosing them, especially when it's inconvenient. A murmur swept through the audience. I failed her, he continued. Not in a scandal or some grand explosion, but in the quiet moments. The ones that demanded courage, and I gave her silence instead. He stepped away from the podium. Gasps echoed as he walked off stage, toward her. Live cameras followed. I'm not here to win you back with a necklace or a speech, he said, standing before her now. I'm here because you deserve a public apology. Because the woman I married deserved a partner, not a coward who hid behind his empire. Isla stared at him. For a heartbeat, everything froze. Then Veronica's voice rang out. Well, isn't that touching, she said, stepping forward in a silver dress that sparkled like spite. Except the part where he offered me a board seat last week, just hours before he sent that necklace to you. The room gasped again. Isla's face went cold. Damien turned to Veronica. You're lying. Oh, am I? Veronica said, waving her phone. Because I've got the audio. Want me to play it? She tapped the screen. Damien lunged forward. Too late. Her phone began playing his voice. If she doesn't forgive me, I need leverage. Someone who can control the vote. You get the seat. Just hold the press back until I win her back. The room fell into shocked silence. Isla felt like the air had been punched from her lungs. Her heels backed her away.
Once. Twice.
3 steps. Damien turned toward her, face pale. Isla. She shook her head. So that's what this was. Another performance. Another manipulation. No, Damien pleaded. That clip was taken out of context. I don't care, she whispered, her eyes glassy with betrayal. You promised honesty. And, again, all I got was strategy. She removed the necklace, her own necklace, and dropped it onto the gala table beside them. Keep your empire, Damien. I'm done playing your trophy. She turned and walked out, leaving cameras, silence, and a shattered man behind her. Ending beat/cliffhanger. Veronica smirked. But behind her, someone tapped her shoulder. A man in a black suit, earpiece visible. Mississippi Veronica Lane? Yes. You're under investigation for federal securities fraud. You'll need to come with us. Her smile dropped. As the officers took her away, Damien stood frozen, realizing the woman who destroyed Isla's reputation had just destroyed his company too. 3 weeks later, the headlines had changed. Cole empire shaken by scandal. Veronica Lane faces charges in insider trading scheme. CEO Damien Cole steps down to reflect on my failures. But Isla didn't read them. She had stopped letting the world define her story. Scene: a modest art gallery in Brooklyn. Rain dripped softly against the wide gallery windows, casting reflections of streetlights onto polished floors. Isla moved quietly between canvases, her heels echoing with each step. She wore jeans and a white blouse now, simple, free, unbranded. No cameras, no red carpets, just breath, brushstrokes, and peace. The gallery wasn't hers. Not yet. But she was working with the owner to curate her first showcase, highlighting local artists who had once been invisible.
Just like she'd been.
She stood in front of one painting, a swirl of storm and light. It didn't make sense, yet it felt like truth. A shadow shifted behind her. She didn't turn. "Did you come to buy something or just haunt me?" she asked quietly. The voice behind her cracked with restraint. "Both." Isla turned. Damien stood in the doorway, drenched from the rain, without a driver or umbrella or entourage. Just him. And pain. "Why are you here?" she asked, arms folded. "I stepped down," he said. "From the board. From Cole Enterprises." Isla's eyebrows rose.
"Why?"
"So you can play the hero again? Earn pity points." "No," he said, his voice raw. "Because I realized I built a kingdom I didn't want to live in. I had power but no peace. I had wealth, but no worth." Her arms tightened.
She didn't want to cry.
Not in front of him. "I know you don't owe me anything," he continued. "But I needed to see you. Just once. Not to ask for anything. Just to say what I never did before." Isla's voice shook. "You said a lot of things in that ballroom. Most of them lies." "Not lies. Just incomplete truths. The necklace, the speech. Yes, I wanted to win you back. But when I saw your face that night, I knew I had already lost you. And deserved to." He stepped forward.
Slow.
"Careful. But I've spent every day since that night trying to unlearn the man I became." She looked at him. And for a moment, she saw him not as the CEO, not as the man who broke her trust, but as someone stripped bare. "What do you want from me, Damien?" He reached into his coat and pulled out a small, folded canvas, unrolled it carefully, revealed a painting, her painting, from years ago, the only one she ever sold, the one he bought anonymously. Her breath caught. "I kept this in my office," he said. "It reminded me that strength doesn't always scream. Sometimes it walks away quietly, and that's even louder." She stepped back, unsure. "Why now? Why bring this?" "Because I'm not here with a necklace or a promise," he said softly. "Just the truth. I loved you wrong, Isla. I tried to protect you by pushing you away. But that wasn't love. That was fear." Tears welled, uninvited. She turned away, gripping the frame of the painting in front of her. "I don't know if I can trust you again," she whispered. "I don't expect you to," he said. "But maybe someday if you ever let me walk beside you, not as your CEO, not as your husband, just as someone who finally sees you." He placed the canvas gently on a table and walked away. No kiss. No final plea. Just silence. Isla stood frozen, then slowly walked to the canvas. Unfolded behind it something taped. A note. Not typed. Not branded. Just ink and pain. "This isn't redemption. It's confession. You were never invisible. I was just blind. And if loving you from afar is all I get, I'll still be the luckiest man alive."
D.
Her hand trembled. Not from weakness, but from recognition. This was not a man trying to win. This was a man who had lost and learned. She looked out at the rain, where his figure vanished into the mist. She didn't call out. Not yet. But for the first time in years, she smiled.